Mahara actually is. And thanks also, Julian, for starting the recording. But then also because I see from the polls that there is at least one person who's a user of Mahara, and a few have already started looking at it, and there are actually 9 administrators of Mahara here. So I'll also look at some of the new features that we have just released in Mahara 1.5, which came out in April this year. And then also in the second and hopefully biggest part of the session today, that we'll actually also look at some of the examples, or also how it works when you connect Moodle to Mahara, and also directly looking at some of the new features. Okay, so I'll just switch the layout that you can see the presentation. And I'll also try to keep an eye on the chat. Please make yourself heard in there, and I'll try to answer your questions also in between of the slides. Okay, so Julian already told you a little bit about myself, but usually I forget about this, and so I just included this slide here, and just to give you an idea of what I'm doing. And besides taking pictures of benches around the world when I'm in different places, but also when I'm at home, which is Wellington in New Zealand now, I work for Catalyst IT, which is an open source software development company, currently with around 150 people in Wellington, New Zealand, and also several other locations in New Zealand now, Sydney and Brisbane, and also Brighton in the UK. I have many different heads in the company, but my biggest head is within the Mahara development team. But I'm not a developer myself, but I'm most likely more on the user side of things, and give support within the Mahara community, and also within our biggest Mahara site, actually worldwide as far as I know, which is myportfolio.school.nz, and support over 1,000 schools there who use that one site. So you can usually find me either on Twitter, but most likely actually in the Mahara forums on mahara.org. And I'm also responding to emails. Either email address that you see here on the screen works just fine. And yeah, I would like to hear from you, especially if you have already used Mahara, and hearing what you think about the software, but also new users, and encourage them to participate in the community. So this iMood is primarily about Moodle, which is a learning management system. So why do we want to connect an e-portfolio system, and what can you actually do with it? So Mahara has quite a strong background and feature set for personal learning environments, and thus for reflections and showcasing. You can also do quite a bit of other portfolio work in it, as you can see here from this graphic, because there are so many different types of e-portfolios, or portfolios in general, that you usually do not just use one type, but work with many different types. And so you could have a showcase portfolio in which you just show off your best talents. You present yourself to the best possibility. And that's what we usually saw when we looked at architects' portfolios, or also artists' portfolios, when they wanted to be exhibited in a gallery, for example. An e-portfolio oftentimes is also there for reflection, so that we can go back to something that we've done, that when we taught a class, reflect back on how everything went, whether we were prepared enough, whether we should have done a different task, different activity, how we managed the class, and so on. We can also use e-portfolios for developmental purposes, where we want to see how we fared over a certain period of time. For example, when we did something at the beginning of a semester or a term, and how we did the same activity or something similar at the end of it, and how much we have learned in between, and how we progressed over time. And then, of course, there's also an assessment component, oftentimes in e-portfolios, or portfolios in general these days, where we want to give feedback on the portfolio work, be it reflected thoughts, development processes, or even a showcase portfolio, or in a lot of times also just using rubrics, and give feedback on those. But as you can also see, these different types of portfolios, and these are not all of them even, do not usually stand by themselves, but they can interact with each other or they can flow into each other. You can start out with a showcase portfolio, which then turns into a reflective portfolio, or you also have reflective components in a developmental or assessment portfolio. So you can handle portfolios quite flexibly. Mahara cannot do everything equally well, but we try to at least have features for many of these different ePortfolio components. And that is where actually the combination of Mahara and Moodle comes in quite nicely, because when you combine the two, when you integrate them, you can have a very strong assessment component, for example, on the Moodle side, where you also work with grades or with rubrics, and then showcase your work on Mahara or have all your work completed in your portfolio in Mahara and then send it off to Moodle for assessment. So there are many different ways of working with it. And today I think I only have time to show you a few. So what could a portfolio look like? Here's a portfolio from a high school student in the United States. And that is just one of her pages in which she introduces herself, introduces why she keeps an electronic portfolio, and where she also includes some photos that she has taken or that she has found online, a video, and also then under quick connections, links to her other portfolio pages. And please feel free to interrupt me or ask questions whenever you want. In this example here by Sam, she is an instructor and educational technologist at Southampton Solent University. You can see that she has a portfolio in which she shows off her archery skills. And so she's showing her competency, but she's also showing developmental progress and also in other parts reflective thought. And if you look at the top of the screen where it says My Stuff, you see that this page that she shows here is also only one part of her entire portfolio, and that if we were to click on each individual tab, we would be able to get to the other parts of her portfolio and get a really well-rounded idea of what Sam does, where she's good at, what her thoughts are, and what she'd like to achieve in future. What you can also do in Mahara is not just create your portfolios, but especially when you start out using portfolios in the classroom or also just with teachers for appraisal purposes, is that you might want to do some scaffolding, because not everybody is used to a portfolio process and knows what should go into a portfolio. So you could, for example, create a template for your teachers or for your students that you then make available to them, in which they just need to fill in their answers. In this case here, we see a template that is in wide use on my portfolio, and many copies have already been made there, about the New Zealand Registered Teacher criteria. And so this is just an example of a template where all the important criteria are listed, a reflective question is given, and then below that the teacher can answer. So once a teacher has copied this portfolio page into their own portfolio, they immediately have the structure available. They also have the image available, but of course they could also exchange it if they wished. And then all they have to do is click on the boxes once they're in the editing mode of their portfolios and just type in their answers and then are done with their portfolio work. Grammy, I can show that to you how it is done, and once I'm through my slides, I'll also show you how you can create pages. This is just another example, also from my portfolio, and there we see how a portfolio is used to work with standards, so to use the portfolio for assessment purposes. And here a math teacher has created this portfolio page for his students again, so that they can copy it and then provide answers in the display your one piece of evidence boxes, in these little boxes in these individual text boxes there. And so the students have all the information that they need to provide in order to fulfill that assessment, and then the teacher can give them feedback. I'll show you more when we then go directly into a Mahara site. But now you might wonder, especially if you're new to Mahara, what you can actually do in it. There are many different things. The first and important part is, of course, that you think about what you want to put into your portfolio. Then you can create content directly in Mahara by writing journal posts or by adding text boxes to a portfolio page, or also by filling in a resume, filling in your profile information. Secondly, you can also collect content and evidence and artifacts for your portfolio by uploading files from your computer, and that can pretty much be any file. So no matter whether it's a text document, spreadsheet, PDF file, presentation file, or video and audio files, you can upload everything and then share in a number and put into your portfolio page in a number of different ways. But of course, because nowadays we don't just have files on our computer or work in one learning environment, but might actually already have created content that we shared elsewhere online, Mahara is also a great tool for aggregating content. That means that you can use an RSS feed and display a blog that you have already kept for years on your personal site in your portfolio page. You can also import content from Moodle directly and have that uploaded to Mahara. You can also embed videos and audio files and all different things from other paid sites like YouTube, Vimeo, SlideShare, and GlibTV and others, and make those available without having to upload them again. Then, of course, Mahara is very good for reflecting because you can keep your own journal, or you can write short descriptions or passages of text in a portfolio page. And you can also organize your content quite nicely because you can create as many portfolio pages as you wish that you can then also put together into a collection so that you can share multiple pages together in one portfolio. As I already said, you can then also present your portfolio because everything that you've done so far up to this point is only done on your own. Nobody has access to it. And Trish, that might answer some of your privacy concerns because in contrast to an open website or an open journal blog, for example, everything you do on Mahara is first private. Only I as author have access to it. The only thing somebody else sees is either my entire profile page if I'm on a Mahara site by myself, if there are not many other institutions, or I can also just have shown a reduced profile page where other users only see my name and my profile photo. Otherwise, everything up to this point is private. And only when I decide to share my portfolio with others will they be able to see it. And under sharing, I can decide on the sharing capabilities and also the sharing permissions. So I can decide to make everything available to anybody online, just to the users who have an account or just to individuals. An administrator, Grammy, can see the portfolios when they log in as these users. So that is similar to the capability that we have in Moodle. When you're a site admin, you can click on the login as, and then you're logged in as that user. But if I'm just in my regular account and don't pretend to be somebody else, I still, even as admin, do not have access to their portfolios, only when I must. Another aspect of Mahara is that you can also collaborate together because even though Mahara is primarily an e-portfolio software, it is also a networking tool and group collaboration tool because in personal learning environments or personal learning networks, you're usually not learning yourself, but you always have people around you with whom you can learn. And so, of course, we also want to replicate that on the Mahara side. And so what you can do is you can form groups in which you can have forum discussions. You can also create pages together. So you could have a project page. And that was quite nicely demonstrated by Richard Jones in his presentation today about its use of Moodle at the Southport School in Australia, because there they have project groups in which then the students work together to create pages and to present their findings. And the networking part is just also for in groups when you discuss topics in forums, share files, and also create pages together. Now, so far that is standard Mahara. We try to release versions in regular intervals. And that has meant so far that we brought out a new version of Mahara between 9 and 11 months. And as I already alluded to at the beginning, we just released version 1.5, so the fifth iteration of Mahara. And in there, we fixed over 300 bugs that were reported by community members. And we also put in 84 new features. 84 new features that is sometimes very small features, like just adding a new button that has been missing. And sometimes that can be something really big, like rewriting the entire group functionality and group settings area. So you can imagine that I sometimes feel like a kid in a candy store when some people ask me, well, what is actually new in Mahara 1.5? Because there are just so many things in there. And even sometimes just bug fixes are really great to have fixed. And so, especially for those who have already been using Mahara, I'd just like to give you a couple of nuggets of functionality that I particularly like, but that doesn't mean that there are others that are less important. So what is really cool? A lot of times people are complain that they cannot embed iframes very easily because for security reasons, we have disabled that functionality, and every iframe needs to go through the software HTML purifier just to make sure that no malicious content is uploaded or linked to, in this case, to Mahara. And of course, that is very restricting. And in the past, we always had to write specific filters to circumvent this. So filters for YouTube, for Google Video, for SlideShare, for Vimeo, for Prezi, and also for others. And now in Mahara 1.5, we have a feature available currently only on the code side, where you can put in iframe code, as you can see here, usually just the base URL. And then you can embed these different objects without problems in journals and also in text boxes. Mahara 1.6 will will have an admin interface for that. That was sponsored by the University of Canberra. So I'm already really looking forward to the next version of Mahara. Yeah, Trish, unfortunately, I can't really distribute any yummy cookies over the internet, but maybe at some point we'll see each other in person. And yes, these nuggets there were actually taken in Belgium. So if you ever go to Bruges, you'll find those and can just have a taste yourself. Unfortunately, New Zealand doesn't have them, but maybe we can find them somewhere else. Hey, and next really nice feature is browser ID support. I'm not sure if you've already heard about browser ID, but for me, in the instance that we have implemented, it's similar to OpenID, where you have an online identity that you can use in other instances and on other websites. And browser ID is a project by Mozilla Labs, and it is part of the Persona project, in which really an alternative, an open source alternative to Facebook and others is being found, so that people who would like to have one presence online and also reuse their identity, their information that they put into Persona on other sites, that they can do this. And I believe Mahara was one of the very first sites that actually, or softwares that actually allows browser ID support. And that makes it quite nice because you do not necessarily have to have a specific complicated authentication method, but you could just use browser ID, which you then also use on other websites in the future. And what you see here is a different layout for Mahara. And that is our primary school theme, which was developed for myportfolio.school.nz, and the Ministry of Education here in New Zealand said that we can open source it, as well as all the other features that we implement for My Portfolio. Because we had a lot of primary schools on that site, and they found the standard theme a bit drab with the 3 boxes in there where you can just choose where you can choose one of the important tasks that you wanted to complete. And so they wanted to have something more exciting. And so one of our designers at Catalyst came up with an initial design that we then also put forward to the students to give us feedback on it. And we had really, really good success with that because the students were active and they said, oh, we actually need to have a landscape outside of the windows, and we need computers in our classroom, and we need this and that. And that is how this picture, this dashboard image evolved. And this is just to show you that a Mahara site does not have to have these standard dashboard boxes, but that you can make your own thing. That you can really cater it to your user group, because this is all just in one page, in one template page, and thus can be adapted, and the designer can make an image map out of it, and then you can also decide which calls of action you would like to have in there. This Trish and Todd, yes, this primary school theme is part of Mahara Core. You can find it when you select the themes. And that is the really nice thing about it, also about our development work that we do for My Portfolio, that we can pretty much put everything back into Core Mahara and thus give also back to the community. And yes, actually, the primary school theme is used quite a bit. And of course, the primary school teachers who teach in one of the schools who has this theme also use it. And it's quite nice to have a fresh outlook on it, and also the little icons. One other thing that has been a question for quite a bit of time since we've had collections is that you can also copy collections, and that is now possible in Mahara 1.5. And that means if you create a collection for your students where you have all the portfolio pages that they should work on within 1 year in it, then they can just click on that collection and copy 4, 5, 6, or 7 or more pages. And thus already have a really, really good foundation for starting their portfolio. And if you are a fan of drop-down menus and not so much the tabs that we have by default in Mahara, you can also now have a built-in drop-down menu. And that means that any theme that is that ships standard or that ships in default Mahara, you can choose whether you want to have tabs or use a drop-down menu, and thus save a bit of space on your screen and not have these tabs later. Now, if you want to demo or try out any of these functionalities, then you're very welcome to log on to demo.mahara.org and give them a try. Because there you can play to your heart's content. The only thing that you do not have access to is the site administration area, simply because there you could also delete certain accounts that we need for demonstration purposes or make far-reaching changes. If you go to the demo site and you play around and you want to keep some of your things, please make sure that you download your portfolio then under the export option at the end of your session, because the site is being reset once a day. Usually, I think it is around 6 a.m. UTC, so 7 a.m. London time at the moment. And I just mentioned that you can export your portfolio, and that is also one nice aspect of Mahara, that you can actually take it along with you once you leave your school or your university that has been using Mahara, that it is not stuck in there, but that you can take it with you either as HTML page or HTML website, or also as so-called Leap to A export. Jane, thank you very much for putting the URL in. So Leap2A export, and that means that an administrator can then import that portfolio already into another version of Mahara. So if you wondered, well, how can I remember all these many different features and how to get there and what to do with them? Well, since Mahara 1.4, the later stages of it, we have a manual website. Put it in here. And the current site has the manual for Mahara 1.5, but you can also access the one for 1.4. And that includes all functionality that you might be interested in. You can also download the manual in PDF form, or if you have a tablet device, you can also view it as EPUB document. Here you see one of these pages. So what we have tried is to split up the manual in different sections, also provide where you can find that section on Mahara, and have screenshots with callouts which then tell you what each functionality is below. And there's also a full text search included. So if you want to look for anything, just type in your search term on the left-hand side, and you'll usually get a result there. The manual is currently also being translated in other languages, foremost French, because the French Mahoudelmood is coming up in June. And also our Japanese translator has already started. So once we move to our new server, we will also be able to make the manual available in different languages, and of course also welcome translators who want to work on it. And as we've already, since we are in an iMood session, Mahara and Moodle together becomes Mahoodle. And that goes back already quite some time to the beginning, I believe. And you need MNet for that activated, Moodle networking. And it allows you to jump either from Moodle to Mahara or from Mahara to Moodle, so that you have single sign-on over both platforms and don't have to remember a second login name. I'll also show you in a little bit how you can transfer content directly from Moodle to Mahara and use the ePortfolio functionality from Moodle for that. There is also quite a nice guide available for setting up Mahoodle. And if you actually go to the course space for this session, I provide a number of links there, also to the demo site, to the manual, and also to the Mahoodle guide, so that you have some links to work with. But as in any other open source community, we would not be anything without our community. And the community, it consists of many, many different people. So if we start at the top, we have with the construction head, the core developer. Then going clockwise, we have the bug squasher or the bug ninja, so the person who fights bugs but also actually just reports them. Then we have the translator, the security guard who takes care of security questions, the reviewer, who is really important for getting new features into Mahara, because they are reviewing the code, making sure that everything is correct. So it's kind of QA task. Then we also have the documenter, the person working on the user manual, the person's working on the wiki, and so on. And of course, also a tester. Testing is very important of new features, also bug fixes, to make sure that not more bug fixes or additional bug fixes are introduced. And then we have two more or less automating processes, a packager, which just puts everything together in a package, which makes it easier for administrators to install on the server. And then we have our Mahara bot, who performs certain tasks either in our IRC channel or also elsewhere. Julian, we've had these images for quite some time now, and I really love them. And Yvonne is expanding them. I actually just saw that I missed the designer, because theming is also quite a big part. And these little icons are really, really nice just to give the community also a bit of a persona and to show that working on an open source project is not just about the coding and the development aspect, but also about many, many other aspects. For example, reporting bugs, just helping with the translations or even testing features. And of course, also using the software and through using it, giving us feedback so that we can make things better. That should actually be enough of slides. And please let me know if I missed any questions. And if you have any specific questions, please give them to me now, because now we have the time to actually go into Mahara itself, where I can show you some things that you are most interested in. I'm just preparing the screen sharing. So I hope you will see my screen showing the iMood session in a little bit. Please let me know in the chat window if you can see it. Okay, thank you, Dana. Okay, what would you like to see? Graeme, you had a question earlier. Let me try and find it. Oh yes, you wanted to see how we can share or how we can create a template page and then make that available to others. So what I'll do, and the iMod team was so nice to actually set up with a Mahara instance. So if you log in yourself, you can jump to Mahara if you put in the network servers block. And for example, you can put that on your My Moodle page on the iMod site. Seem to have some connection problems currently to the iMod page. So I'm already logged in, as you can see on this tab here, Mahara iMood. And I'll also put in the block to the network service block to Mahara in my course once I have access to it again. So here on this screen, though, you see a standard Mahara site with the three boxes that I talked about earlier, where we actually have this much more engaging image for the primary school theme. But it tells you quite nicely what you can do. You can create and collect content. For example, update your profile, upload files, create your resume online, also publish a journal. Then you can organize everything in portfolio pages. Julian, I think it might be my connection here. And since I'm in New Zealand, so not right in Australia, so who knows what's going on there. And then also as third part, you can share and network. So you can share your pages with others and you can make friends on the platform, join groups or discuss topics. This page, once you're logged in, is your dashboard page. And there you can put all different things that you would like to see immediately and that you should have available all the time. So if I show you a different dashboard page, this one is my dashboard page on myportfolio.school.nz. Which is a site where we also give support, where Catalyst gives support for schools, and there are currently approximately 1,100 schools registered. So we have about 63,000 registered users on there. And there you see that I also have my latest pages that I have access to that other people gave me access to. My own pages are listed. Oh, I think I should not scroll so much. Then you also see the groups that I'm a member of and also my watched pages, so pages that I like to keep an eye on, and then also my inbox or other recent activity. So if I go to my portfolio, and for example, create a page which I call template. I don't worry about all the other settings right now. Paul, what is in my inbox? My inbox are all the messages that I got on the platform, either messages by other users or system messages, for example, also when new forum posts were written. If I want to create a template, usually what I start out with is a regular text box. And on this page, for the people who are new to Mahara, that's what I call the page editor, because here you can do everything in your page. You assemble your portfolio pages, and everything is in so-called blocks. So what you do is you click on one of the icons that you want to have on your, or the content types that you want to have on your page, and then drag that down into the white space, and you can decide where you want to have it. You can also change the layout so that you could only have 2 columns or 1 column, or 4 or 5. And then you can give your text box a title. And once you're done, the text box appears here. And Grammy, yes, you can do that on the demo site, because when you're registered in Moodle, you provide your email address, and that email address is also used on the Mahara site. So all your standard profile information is transferred over. And also, if you have provided a profile picture in Moodle, that'll also be used in Mahara. Let's just put a second text box quickly in here. And you can, of course, also put images in here. For example, if we went to Files, Images, and Video, I have the image type block. I can put that here on the right-hand side. And if I do not yet have any images uploaded, I can do so myself. In this case, I have my profile picture in here, so I'll just, for demonstration purposes, will choose that. And then when I'm done, I see this page in my pages list. So as I said earlier, you only, or everything you do is only available to you. So you must share it explicitly with other people. So you can then go to the Share tab. And there you see that my profile page is shared with IMO 2012, that is my institution, and also with all logged in users. Now I also want to share my template page. And there I say I also share it with all, no, sorry, I'm not sharing it with all logged in users, but only with people from my institution. That is also a new 1.5 feature that you can share not only with logged in users, friends, and public as big groups, but also just with your institution. And then under advanced options, I can allow copying. Save this. And now Dana and Julian, who are logged in, if you go back to your pages, and click, instead of on create page, on copy a page. Then you will see the template page there, and click on copy page, and it will be placed in your portfolio. And of course, as you can see here, I myself can also duplicate my own pages. And when I'm under edit content, I now have the getting to know box, the reflection box, and my photo. So Julian and Dana would also get my photo into their own portfolios and can then, of course, delete it. And now all I have to do on this template page, go into the box, into the text box, and replace the square brackets with my text. And I can then also add more to my page so that I can really make it my own. In terms of file formats for video, that really depends. As far as I know, Flash might still not be able to be played on the iPad. Unfortunately, I can't check that because I don't have one. For playing videos, we have Flow Player in Mahara, which allows you to insert MP4 files and also MP3 and also FLV files. For everything else, if you have QuickTime files or Windows Media files, you can there is an administrator setting where you can enable these. Per default, it's not enabled just to ensure that everyone can actually watch the videos, because Flow Player files in Flow that are embedded via Flow Player can be watched on all computers that have Flash enabled, whereas others cannot. And Flash, I don't mean the proprietary Flash, but the open source Flow Player Flash embedding possibility. But you could make also other file formats available, but then would have to make sure that you have the respective plugin installed in your browser. Just to give you an idea of what else you can do with external content. On this page here, I created a very brief portfolio on the iMood demo site. And there you can see that I have a photo. And this is actually also not uploaded to the iMood site, but this sits on my Flickr account. Then I have a small text box just with links to where else I can be found. And I embedded a YouTube video, which then, like on Moodle, I can start to play. Then I can go further in my own portfolio and click onto a second tab, which is quite nice because that way you can take people through your portfolio. And there you see my external blogs. So in this case, I pull in content from my Flickr stream and also from my WordPress blog. What I could also do is, instead of showing the entire content, I could just have a list of these blog types. And then similarly with presentations, I can pull in a feed from my SlideShare presentations, but also directly embed a SlideShare file so that people can watch the presentation immediately there. And I can do all that and also upload, of course, PDF or presentations files myself. Grammy, yes, you can embed a YouTube video in a Mahara file, because we just go back to my first page and click on edit this page. Then you see the YouTube file. All that is to it is just a URL. So if I make this page then copyable, and if I make a page that is part of a collection copyable, then the entire collection becomes available. So if I make that available to you and also allow copying, and you can put that into your own portfolio and have that block in there. There are only very few blocks in Mahara that cannot be copied. And these are usually the resume blocks and also the plans block, because they depend quite a bit on the first content tab here. Paul, good questions. What would be examples of institutions and groups? Where would I use them? Let me show you my portfolio. There we use institutions to distinguish between schools. So on my portfolio.school.nz, every school that is registered has its own institution. And that means that they take care of their own user management. They decide who shall have staff rights, who shall have administrator rights. And they can also then decide who shall become a member of their institution. And in institutions, you can also have different I'm not really good at multitasking, I'm sorry. You can have different authentication methods. And I'm just showing that to you on the demo site. And different authentication methods mean that if one school wants to connect their Moodle site to it, they can, whereas another school might not have Moodle, so they would use their LDAP authentication method or maybe even a SAML single sign-on authentication method. And that way you can distinguish between institutions and you can decide who shall have access to what. What you can also change on the institution level is the theme. So in here we have the authentication plugins, internal and browser ID. On my portfolio, a lot of schools also have single sign-on via SAML authentication, but you could also have LDAP authentication or Moodle authentication. And what I can then also do for each institution, I can upload a logo. So if I uploaded this logo, for example, I can upload that. And then I can decide whether I want to have one of the built-in themes or choose the configurable theme and change my background to something that is more according to my colors that correspond to my logo. And headings, and so on. And then when I submit that, a little bit for uploading the logo. So that was in demo, which does not have any members. So first need to put somebody in there. And I may user, a member of the demo institution. And then you see immediately that the theme that I have just configured has the logo and also has the other colors that I decided on. And as Julian said, yes, members from one institution can see members from another. So there is no real division. And that's what I actually quite like about a multi-tenanted Mahara instance, because you can do your own user management as institution. So every school can decide on which teachers and which students have access to it, but on large, they can still talk to each other. So you could have cross-school communication without having to worry whether you need to give that teacher or that student now access to your Moodle installation. But everyone can be on one instance and share resources, be part of groups. You can collaborate on projects across school borders. And that is quite nice because that way you can build up a community. And Julian, yes, there was some work done around isolated institutions. But as far as I know, this feature or this plugin hasn't been updated for quite some time. And Lon still wants to work on it to make it part of core Mahara, but it is such a huge feature that it really, really takes a long time to update the code, to put it into it, and also to make sure that every functionality that is related to that, that should be isolated, is connected. So isolated institutions mean that you pretty much have everyone on one Mahara instance, but each institution can say, well, actually, I do not want to communicate with others who are also on the same institution. Any other questions? Or do you want to see some of the Moodle Mahara features? I think we still have about 15 to 20 minutes. The Moodle features. Sure, Paul. I hope Moodle behaves now and lets me get in there quickly enough. The standard feature that ships with Moodle 2 is the ePortfolio export. And now I need to go back into my course. Oh, that works nicely now, much faster. If I'm in my course now, you will see when you scroll down the Mahara glossary. And if I click on that, just a regular Mahara glossary opens up. And that, since this content was created by me, I can export it into my portfolio. So anything that you create in Moodle is exportable to your ePortfolio. That means glossary entries, files that you have uploaded, forum content as well. But you cannot export an entire forum, but just your own personal forum posts. So in this case, I just created a small glossary entry. And as you can see on the right-hand side, there's this little up arrow, which means export to portfolio. You can also watch the replay of Julian's session or go to his repeat session, because there he also explains this feature quite nicely. And in order to use this, you will actually have to have Moodle networking set up. So you need to have your Moodle set up. That means enable the networking feature on the Moodle side and also on the Mahara side. Put in the information that is necessary to for the two sites to find each other, and then you're set to go. It does not mean that both your Moodle and Mahara need to sit on the same server. So your Moodle site can sit at your school and your Mahara site can sit somewhere else. As long as the URLs are correct, you can find them. So now I want to export to my Mahara portfolio. Click on Next. And then I actually have two options for exporting. I can export it as HTML page, or I can export it as Leap2A portfolio format. The HTML option will put a file into your file area on Mahara, whereas the Leap2A portfolio format will create a journal with a blog post in it. I use the HTML option because that is a little bit easier to work with. And then I get to a next screen where I'm asked whether I want to continue, and you see that I've already tried a couple of times just to make sure that it works. And once you've clicked on continue, you are taken to a page where you can then either return to where you came from, or you can continue to your portfolio. Open that up in a new tab. I'm immediately logged into my portfolio. My profile picture is shown, and I'm also in my files area. And then I see mahara.html is displayed here. So what I can do now is go to my portfolio pages and put that into the example pages. This text box here. And since the file that was produced is an HTML file, all I have to do is drag the HTML block down into my content area. And then I can click on incoming, which is the folder where all my exports from Moodle are stored. And then click on the HTML file that I want to display. Give it a title. And then save that block and have it available. And just to not confuse you, I'll just take one of them. So that is the nice thing about the HTML block, because you can actually make the content visible. I could also click on Files to Download and do the same thing. Select my HTML page, give it a title, save it, but then I would only get the link to the file instead of seeing the content directly. So sometimes you can decide what you want to do. So you can always download files, or in the case of HTML pages, photos, and also videos and audio, you can make these files immediately available. So that was one of the Mahoodle features. A second Mahoodle feature is the Mahara ePortfolio assignment, which you can also try out in the sessions course. And that is plugin functionality. So you would need to install a plugin for Moodle, the assignment submission plugin, which can be found on our plugins page. The links for that is right above this example. And if you want to work with outcomes and have these transferred to Mahara, you would also have to install a plugin on the Mahara side. But if we go to the Mahara ePortfolio assessment example assignment, which is just a regular assignment in Moodle, then you see that in this case, I have already submitted a page. And that means when I go to Mahara, I see that I cannot delete this one page. So if you look at my pages here, all but one have an edit button. And the submission means that while my page is being assessed on the Moodle side, I cannot make changes. I cannot make changes to most of the artifacts. And these artifacts are text boxes, journal posts, and also files. And that just allows the teacher who assesses my assignment that actually all the information that are there cannot be changed while you're waiting for the feedback. So what I can then do is, to the page, as teacher, I can view the submitted assignments. Find my name. And like you would do with any other assignment in Moodle, you can click on grading, then give your feedback, give your grade. And once you have provided your feedback and your grade, and you click on Save Changes, Go back to the Mahara site, refresh that page. I can now again work with that page on Mahara and make any changes because the page in Moodle has been released. So if I go back to my Moodle site now, find that assignment again, and for example need to resubmit my page because I still needed to work on my portfolio, I can again go to that assignment, and in this case, unfortunately, it doesn't allow, in this case, I've set it up so that I can only have one page shared and not resubmit pages. But what you could also do is that you allow resubmitting, and then you would see the list of pages here again. Yes, Julian, the assignment also works with outcomes. And what you can do is install the outcomes plugin on the Mahara site, and then allow for these outcomes to be transferred over to Mahara. At the moment, you cannot do anything besides viewing them in your own portfolio space. But maybe in future, if somebody is expanding that plugin, you can also work with these outcomes and put them onto your portfolio page yourself. Ah, cool. Thanks, Julian, for installing it on the demo site. Haven't seen it earlier. Okay, we still have a few more minutes. If you have some more questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Julian, we are not working on updating the Mahara assignment for Moodle 2.3 right now. Currently, we are working on a proposal for a university on LTI integration for assignments, but that is still in the speccing or BA, business analysis phase. So once that is done and we are allowed to provide more information about that, we'll of course make that available on the Mahara website, and then maybe we'll also have to look, or the university will have to look for a little bit more funding there. But that would be a very exciting thing because the Mahara assignments plugin as it currently stands relies on MNet, and at some point MNet will be going away, and therefore university, or that university who is already looking more towards into the future of installing also a future Moodle version would like not really to depend too much on MNet for working with assignments between Moodle and Mahara. Thanks for the tip on attending Gavin's keynote later on the LTI assignment, Julian. That really sounds interesting, and if I can't be there in person, I'll definitely look at the recording because that is really, really just still a very new field. That is great to hear, Julian, that MNet is not going away until a workable solution has been found for Mahoodle. And we had contacted Dan Potalski once he had moved to Australia and took up his new position because, as far as I know, he's now responsible for things around networking. So once he's all settled in and has more time to spend on MNet and finding alternatives for MNet, we were again going to talk with him of finding a solution for Mahara so that the authentication between the two systems is still possible. Though I must say Mahara now also has a web services plugin for that works in 1.5, which allows you to use API calls, and that's also connect other learning management systems or other systems, for example, also student management systems who allow for web services to connect them to Mahara and then exchange information. So that framework has been started, and there's also still quite a lot of room for further additions. Trish, do you have any questions regarding privacy? Since you were interested in them earlier, that I might still be able to show you something in the last couple of minutes. Or anybody else, if you have last minute question, please feel free to put it into the chat. Or of course, also join us on mahara.org in the community there. Because there we have a number of forum posts, forums set up where you can ask for help, where you can also talk to the developers, where you can just ask about questions about how to work with portfolios in Mahara. Also Moodle Mahoodle integration. And I forgot to mention that there's also mobile Mahara possibilities where you can connect your iPhone or an Android device and explore possibilities of using these mobile devices with your ePortfolio. Trish, what you can look into is, let me find the right, oops, sorry. When you go to the site administration and then to the extensions, there you can disable a number of features. And that means if you hide them, certain things will not be available to your users. If you want to disable more sharing options, then oftentimes you will have to make code customizations. But what you can already do in the administrator setting is that you disable the public sharing so that it is sure that nobody by accident, well, they still have to do it consciously, but by accident share portfolio pages or profiles with the public, with anybody online, which would then also be indexed by Google. So you can restrict certain things there. Julian, I think you still haven't gotten more than 2 or 3 hours of sleep during the night with all your work round the clock iMode session there. Thank you very much for being so active in this session here. I think I'll just see what Amy has to say. Grammy, are you asking for the Moodle iPhone app or for the Mahara iPhone app? The best option so far for mobile Mahara is actually the Android application Mahara Droid. Because there you can pretty much share anything with your Mahara portfolio that you can share on your phone. So wherever you see a share button on your phone, you can share it. So no matter whether it's a video, a audio recording, or also an image file, or anything else that you can create in an app, you can share in your portfolio. The iPhone app is currently restricted to just allowing the upload of photos. But as far as I know, the development company is working on expanding that functionality for the iPhone so that you can also share other artifacts. And for Mahara Droid, we are also looking into expanding the functionality there. And that version is also already available in several different languages. I think I will have to wrap up now because we just have about 3 minutes left in this session. So just going back to the initial, oops, I think I'm still sharing it, to the initial screen where we have our poll. And yes, I think the numbers haven't really changed too much. So currently we have already 2 users of Mahara, 8 who have just started, 9 who have started looking into it. That is really great. And for them, I really suggest that you take a look at the user manual, because there you find all the features of Mahara documented, and you also find all the new features documented. If you go to the index page and then scroll down to N and search for everything new in Mahara 1.5, then you'll be immediately taken to these pages where you can find all the new things. And hopefully some of the 7 who have said they are not users of Mahara yet, you'll explore the site, even if it's only on the iMood website, which makes it easy for you because then you do not have to set up anything yourself, but you can just use it and also explore the features moving between Moodle and Mahara. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending this session. And if you have any further questions, please feel free to contact me. And let me see what is here. Please feel free to send me an email or also for getting online into the Mahara forums and post a forum post there, and one of the developers or I and other community members will give you an answer and help you get started.
Hello everybody, Julian here again, just jumping in at the end, obviously to do a big thank you for Christina. For those of you who have heard me speak before, especially on this subject, my second only love to Moodle is certainly Mahara. It's where the world is leaning towards, I believe. The idea of student-centered practice, more reflective self-evaluation, peer review, social networking, and it's great seeing Mahara over the years just going from strength to strength. So again, Christina, thank you very much for coming along and sharing your knowledge with us. It's a fantastic session. And thank you everybody else for coming along. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to hit her up with questions. She's very good at answering them. She hasn't told me to go away yet, so that certainly says something. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of iMood. Thanks.
And yes, also thank you very much from my side again for joining in this session. If you want to, I can still hang around a little bit and answer some questions that you might have. And otherwise, I'm looking forward to seeing you online, maybe in some of the other iMood sessions or also on mahara.org.